Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava, page 69b. Top of the page, the words Alokeach Yami Beis HaKutin. In the case of one who purchases wine from among the Samaritans, if there is reason to suspect that Truma and tithes were not separated, and he cannot separate them before the start of Shabbat, he acts as follows. If there are 100 log of wine in the barrels, he says, 2 log that I will separate in the future are Truma, as the mandated average measure of Truma is 1/50th. 10 log are the first tithe, and 1/10 of the remainder, 9 log, are second tithe, and he desacralizes the second tithe that he will separate in the future by transferring its sanctity onto money. And he may drink the wine immediately, relying on the separation that he will perform later. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Shimon prohibit one from doing so. The objection of these 3 sages is presumably that this arrangement relies on the principle of retroactive designation, brera, as at the time of the declaration the identity of the particular portions of wine that will be truma and tithes is unknown. And these sages do not accept this principle. It is apparent from this Mishnah that Rabbi Yehuda does not accept retroactive designation, and therefore he cannot be the one who said that the owner of the field may issue his declaration of relinquishment in the morning. The Gemara says, ultimately, why do you reverse the Braita that contains the opinions of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Dosa? It is because there is a difficulty due to the contradiction between one statement of Rabbi Yehuda and another statement of Rabbi Yehuda. Now, too, although you have reversed the Braita, a similar problem remains, and there is a difficulty due to the contradiction between one statement of Rabbi Yochanan and the other statement of Rabbi Yochanan. As you said, according to the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, do not say that anything that was picked from this vine by passerby shall be desacralized onto these coins. Rather say that anything that will be picked from this vine shall be desacralized onto these coins. Apparently, Rabbi Yochanan here accepts the principle of retroactive designation. But it is established that Rabbi Yochanan does not accept the principle of retroactive designation. As Rav Asi says, Rabbi Yochanan says, brothers who divided property received as an inheritance are considered purchasers from each other, and as purchasers of land, they must return the portions to each other in the Jubilee year, at which point they may redistribute the property. This demonstrates that Rabbi Yochanan does not hold that it is retroactively clarified that each brother's portion was designated for him directly upon their father's death, but rather all the land was considered joint property until the brothers traded or bought their respective portions from each other at the time of the distribution of the estate. In light of this objection, the Gemara retracts its previous assertion that Rabbi Yochanan reformulated the declaration of the pious ones. Rather, the pious ones actually declared the past tense. Anything that was picked from this vine by passerby shall be desacralized onto these coins. In other words, the desacralizing took place after the grapes were stolen. If so, the question remains, why did Rabbi Yochanan not accept the opinion of the pious ones, but instead ruled that the owner of an item cannot consecrate it after it has been stolen. The Gemara answers, Rabbi Yochanan found a different unattributed Mishnah, which contradicts the opinion of the pious ones. As we learned in the Mishnah here, 62b, one who steals an item after a thief has already stolen it. In other words, one who steals a stolen item does not pay the double payment to the thief or to the prior owner. Why not? Granted that he does not pay to the first thief, as the verse states, and it was stolen from the house of the man. If the thief shall be found, he shall pay double. Exodus 22:6, which indicates that the double payment applies in the case of an item stolen from the house of a man. In other words, from the owner's jurisdiction, but not to an item stolen from the thief's house. But let him pay the double payment to the owner, as it presumably still belonged to the owner when the second thief stole it. Rather, one must not conclude from this that a stolen item is not under the full jurisdiction of either the owner or the thief. It is not under the jurisdiction of this one, the first thief, because it does not belong to him, and it is not under the jurisdiction of that one, the owner, because it is not in his possession. Therefore, neither of them can consecrate the stolen item. The Gemara asks, granted that this unattributed Mishnah disagrees with the Mishnah that cites the pious ones, but what did you see? Uma chazit de azil batar hahistama. But what did you see that led you to follow that unattributed Mishnah, the one that discusses the double payment? Let Rabbi Yochanan act or rule in accordance with his unattributed Mishnah, which states the practice of the pious ones. On what basis did he choose one Mishnah over the other? The Gemara answers, Rabbi Yochanan followed the Mishnah that discusses the double payment because there is a verse that supports it. And when a man shall sanctify his house to be holy to the Lord, Leviticus 27:14, from which it is derived just as one's house is in his possession, so to anything that one consecrates must be in his possession, excluding items that have been stolen from him. Abaye said, if Rabbi Yochanan had not said that the pious ones and Rabbi Dosa said the same thing, in other words, their rulings are identical, I would say the pious ones accept the opinion of Rabbi Dosa, but Rabbi Dosa does not accept the opinion of the pious ones. Abaye elaborates, the pious ones accept the Sinuin Islahu Rabbi Dosa. The pious ones accept the opinion of Rabbi Dosa for the following reason: and if the sages instituted an ordinance for the sake of a thief to prevent him from eating unredeemed fourth-year grapes by allowing the owner to desacralize produce that is no longer in his possession, does it need to be said that they did so for the sake of innocent poor people, as Rabbi Dosa claimed? Conversely, Rabbi Dosa does not accept the opinion of the pious ones, as he says it is for the sake of poor people that the sages instituted an ordinance. But the sages did not institute an ordinance for the sake of a thief, in line with the aforementioned principle, feed it to the wicked man and let him die. In a similar vein, Rabbi said, if Rabbi Yochanan had not said that the pious ones and Rabbi Dosa said the same thing, I would say that there is a fundamental difference between the cases of fourth-year produce and gleanings taken by the poor, as one could claim. Who is the Tana who taught the ruling of the pious ones? Is Rabbi Meir. But didn't Rabbi Meir say that the second tithe is property belonging to the Most High rather than the possession of the one who is separated from its produce? Even so, with regard to redemption of the second tithe, the merciful one establishes it in his possession, as it is written concerning the second tithe: if a man will redeem any of his tithe, he shall add to get its fifth part. Leviticus 27:31. According to Although according to the opinion of Rabbi Meir, the second tithe does not belong to the owner of the produce from which it was separated, nevertheless, with regard to redemption, the merciful one does distinguish between the stranger and one who separates it from his produce, as the Torah refers to the second tithe as his tithe, and therefore decrees that he, the owner of the crop from which it is separated, can redeem it by adding 1/5 to its value, but no one else can do so. This indicates that although the second tithe produce is not in fact owned by the person, the Torah treats him as the owner of the produce. Okay. Kerem Ravai. How much time do you have left here? Kerem Ravai Nami. Okay. With regard to a fourth year vineyard as well, the sages have derived many halachot from the verbal analogy between the second tithe and fourth year fruit based on the use of the word holy in the context of fourth year fruit and holy in the context of second tithe, as written here concerning the fourth year trees. And in the fourth year of all its fruit shall be holy. All its fruit shall be holy, for giving praise to the Lord. Leviticus 19:24, and it is written with regard to the second tithe, all the tithe of the hand, whether the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, it is the Lord's, it is holy. Leviticus 27:30. From this analogy it is derived, just as in the case of the term holy, that is written in connection to the second tithe, even though property belonging to the Most High, with regard to redemption, the merciful one establishes it in the jurisdiction of the one who separated it. So too, in the context of the word holy, that is written in connection with the fourth year vineyard, and even though it is not his property, as long as it belongs to the Most High, with regard to desacralizing it, the merciful one establishes it in the vineyard owner's jurisdiction. The effect of this determination, is that even when the fruit is in his jurisdiction, is not in his property, and yet he is able to desacralize it, and due to that reason, the owner of the vineyard is able to desacralize the fruit, even after a thief has taken it. Even normal circumstances, when one desacralizes his fourth year fruit, he is desacralizing fruit that does not belong to him. Consequently, there is no novelty in the ruling that one can desacralize fruit, even after it has been taken by a thief. But with regard to gleanings of the poor, since the extra sheaves that the poor inadvertently take are the property of the owner of the field, it may be claimed that only when those sheaves are in his possession, in other words, they have not been taken by anyone else, it can relinquish the ownership of them, whereas when they are no longer in his possession, he cannot relinquish his ownership of them. Consequently, the pious ones who permitted redemption of fourth year produce after it had been stolen would not necessarily agree with Rabbi Dosa, who allowed the relinquishment of stolen sheaves. It is similar, in a similar Ravina said, Yochanan had not said the pious ones. If Yochanan had not said the pious ones and Rabbi Dosa in the evening, I would say, who is the bride who taught me the opinion of the pious ones? Is Rabbi Dosa. I would have said this so that an unattributed Mishnah should not present a difficulty to the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, and the reason why this would have resolved the difficulty for Rabbi Yochanan.